here with Colt Cabana. Colt, this is... if you gave me a list of the people I would love to have a moment and chat with, you'd be number one on my list.
Number one?
Number one.
Oh, thanks, Migs.
Yes.
We've met over the years. You've been around, and you've always been so positive and nice, and I know you're the king of Seattle. So
clearly Steve West has lied to you, and Steve West is here. I don't like Steve West because he sprayed champagne in my face at a 3-2-1 battle, but I'll pretend to like him for today.
Well, was it nice champagne?
Oh, it was the cheapest we could find.
Oh, perfect.
Andre, I believe.
3,000?
It was more like
that
$3. Extra dry cooks,
yeah.
You know?
No, dude, I remember falling in love with your podcast, and that opened my eyes to be like, wow, this is a whole different form. I'm doing radio for now coming up on 20 years, but wow. I was just enthralled by what you do on the podcast, that it made me want to do a podcast, and some like the old dogs that just look at me like, what are you doing that for?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you getting paid more for that? I'm like, no, I don't get a dime for that.
Well, I mean, I think that's the world in wrestling too. Like, it's very equivalent to wrestling. It's like the old guard, right?
Yeah.
The old guard is like, why are you doing so many flips? Why are you doing so many super kicks or whatever it might be?
Yeah.
And then in 40 years, they're going to be like, hey, you guys should just be doing super kicks. That's how we did it, you know?
Back in our your interview with Larry Zbyszko, I thought it was hilarious. Like, the big thing was clotheslines back in the day. And I was crying. One of my favorite moments from that interview had to be when he was bitching about the preparing meals. And I got to cook this. And you're like, you don't have to eat meat if you don't want to. And I was just like, such a practical way to respond to it. And it was great.
Well, that's fun. It's fun to hear from a guy like him. Yeah. And have a conversation with a guy like Larry Zbyszko and hear where whenever I talk to these older generation wrestlers, all I think about is like me and like where I am in 30 years or whatever it might be. And sometimes I if Larry Zbyszko, who's, I don't know, 65, I forgot what he said he was, I'm just trying to picture like what he was doing. I relate it all to me, what he was doing at my age, and then like what he thought he was going to be doing like in that present where we were, so those are sometimes thoughts I have, and those are what comes out in my conversation. Is not like some planned list of 10 questions, but it's just stuff that I'm super curious about, and I'm curious about what Larry eats.
I was too. I was like, God, tell us.
Yeah.
But that's one of the main reasons what I love about the art of wrestling, and what inspired me is that you do come from a place of, I'm not going to have a set formula of how I'm going to ask questions. I don't have question one, question two. And it really opened my eyes when it comes to like interviewing and just doing approach it more like a conversation. Talk to people that you're interested in talking to. And like, I have 0 notes in front of me. And honestly, when I got the message from Steve saying, hey, Colt's up for coming by, there was a moment of panic.
Well, what's that giant list right in front of you? That's numbered alphabetically.
That's the type of sandwiches I want to eat today.
Perfect.
Because that was part of my sent Colt an email yesterday asking, because you're here for 3-2-1 battle.
That was a great transition, by the way, what you just did.
Oh, I'm a pro.
I mean, that's improv 101 right there. Look at you.
20 years of experience, Colt. Come on.
Beauty.
But I was like, oh, hey, I'd love to have you on. And plus, if by chance I can bribe you with the greatest pastrami sandwich here in the Northwest, which is right across the street at this random butcher shop called the Market House. And
so it's famous to you, or it's known? Like,
anyone who goes to it will swear
falls in love with it. Yeah. Well, listen, I'm a Jew first and a wrestler second, so so you tell me there's a pastrami. That's what I grew up on. Yeah. And also, I was a weird eater as a kid. I had very weird eating habits. It was literally pizza, hot dogs, and corned beef. That's like all I ate. I was one of those weird kids, and eventually, like, I'm still kind of weird to this day, but eventually, my eating habits kind of changed a little bit. But that's what I grew up on. So those are the three in my. In the food pyramid that we learned as a kid, like fruits and vegetables. Mine's pizza, corned beef, and hot dogs. Yeah.
Well, I think we have a hot dog roller. There's a good pizza place, right? And we could really accomplish the trifecta.
All? Nice. Yeah. I'm in.
Might not be for the best for tonight when you wrestle.
Right.
But, yeah.
And I've been dieting, but I don't know. To me, I don't know. But a good pastrami sounds delicious. And this is kind of not a new place, but I haven't been to Seattle in I think 10 years. So actually, I thought it was longer than that. Somebody tweeted me just as we were walking up here that I did Pinnacle. I wrestled for Pinnacle March 2007, which would make it about 10 years. And when I go to a new place, like I'm in and out all over the place. And so I like to try to like take in some kind of culture. So to me, hey, we have the town's greatest pastrami. Great, look at me, I'm cultured. I'm going to.
Then when you talk to someone who's like, oh yeah, I'm from Seattle, you're like, hey, have you had the Market House pastrami? No, you'd be like, no, dude, that's the worst.
No, I feel like
Migs.
I feel like a real Anthony Bourdain over here, like taking it in.
Your life is like being on the Travel Channel and the Food Channel. I mean, everywhere you go, that has to keep you sane, to just find some culture and something where you're not just stuck sitting in a hotel waiting for your next match.
Yeah, I try. It's like, it's so weird because I'm on both ends of it, because especially, in the early years, it's like I would get flown around and whatever, but I was still kind of struggling in terms of money wise. So it's you don't want to do anything, like you don't want to do anything that would cost money. And now I'm doing all right for myself. So like I'm okay with, hey, if I had to take an Uber somewhere or do, that's how my mind thinks. Again, remember, Jewish first, okay, rest second. But, for so long, it wasn't that way.
Yeah.
But also, over the years, I've had a couple, I've had a development deal to do travel shows and stuff like that, and a couple things that just didn't come to be. But because I think, like, people, my travels are known, and I do those Wrestling Road Diaries movies, and just my weird eclectic life, people have tried to like make shows out of it and pitches before, and just sadly nothing's come about.
Has there been one that you could think of that you're like, damn, I just wish that would have happened? Yeah,
there was one on the table. I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything, but like Red Bull TV in Europe like really wanted it, and it was myself and my mom. Yeah. And if she's not, I think recently I just put something on Instagram and my YouTube channel of like, she's so cute, like, and fun, and has charisma too, and she's 71 years old, and we were going to travel around these little shows, and I remember it was going to, like, they had it all set up that it was going to like end, so it was going to be me and my mom, and then we were always going to go visit, or someone on the show would be like an old time wrestler. So maybe a great example here would be like Buddy Wayne. We'd come to Seattle, have Buddy Wayne on. We'd go to a show in Tennessee, and there would be Tracy Smothers, and we had all these like guys, and then at the end we'd put on this Legends show with my mom. I don't know what Eric came, but that was their big idea.
You have to get Matt Cross and his grandma involved. I remember when I had Matt on, he was sharing stories about his grandma just getting into the mix of the match. It's surprising him when he didn't even know she was going to be there.
Well, this was a couple months ago, if not a year ago, in Cleveland. We wrestled, and I got her involved, and apparently Matt said that she had never been involved in anything, and no one really even knew that she was like a thing.
That was the story he was telling us. Yeah, he was like, I was just surprised.
I was like, how? She was so into it, and I talked about my podcast this week too. It's like, she carries around that foam stick, and she's wearing his shirt, and she's like this 85, if not, whatever. And I'm like, how would you? I don't know. As a performer, I'm like, of course I'm making. In my head, the whole at least the whole Cleveland community knows about her, and apparently they didn't. And now I was just on a show at AIW last week, and they were getting grandma chants, and she was giving the guys heat, and she knew to play into it.
Is it surreal for like you and guys like Matt? I mean, you've been grinding away for many years, and now here's like this whole. I mean, and I would attribute a lot of what you've done with the art of wrestling, just bringing independent wrestling into the foreground and making it something that people might have never thought about checking out, but now they do. Is it a trip to now like look back from when you guys were first starting to where it is now, where his grandma is over in the fans of wrestling fans?
Well, that's always been the fun of it, but just I guess the internet didn't know about it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's those shows,
yeah,
and that's why I've loved those shows. And yeah, I guess a little bit of the podcast was my love letter to be like, hey, everyone should know about these shows. But part of the fun, and here in Seattle, I guess we would know, like part of the fun is like that's almost as an underground thing, you kind of want to keep it underground a little bit, and you want to keep it an alternative.
It's like your favorite band. You kind of like, I'm happy they have success, but damn it.
Exactly.
I don't like the guy that I hate likes that band too.
Yeah, when WWE's like, check out one of the top indies, it's like, ugh, stop it. Stop it, Hunter. What are you doing? And now it's a little bit, for me, it's a little bit like, man, it's not as cool, like Hot Topic is now starting to carry. Oh, that's not a rip on those guys, but
no, of course. I mean, you can't begrudge anyone for success,
yeah.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's like when Hot Topic is all of a sudden embracing the independent wrestling world, you're like, are we independent anymore?
Yeah.
What got you hooked up with and maybe Steve could even answer this too, as far as, I mean, it is a perfect fit to have you doing stuff with 3-2-1 Battle.
Well, Steve can talk, man.
I know everybody in the 3-2-1 locker room and everybody that's been a part of the administrative side of it has pretty well told me, like, if there's one person that we could have that fits the bill of what it is that we do in like the weird wrestling kind of culture that is 3-2-1 battle, Colt's the guy, right? I started talking to Colt. I sent him an email Thanksgiving morning last year, and we talked over the course of 4 or 5 months to work out like a time that worked, because he has a very busy schedule. And Colt,
I was so bummed because he gave me some dates, and I was like, I can't do it. And like, you know, to me, Seattle is a place. There's towns that like the way you said about, and like Matt and I embrace these towns. Austin, Texas is one of them.
Yeah.
You know, in my head, like Portland is one of them. And even like when we started doing these shows in Providence, Rhode Island for Beyond Wrestling, like these are these kind of like smaller grungy towns, but like have this underground scene and this art, kind of this artsy scene that I really like. That's very eclectic. And I know Seattle's one, and I haven't been there for so long, and because of the commission and all that BS. And so, you know, when I got that email, I was like, and then he sent me the date, I was like, no. And then, right, because I kept on like sending you like other dates, like, how about this one? I see you running this one. Like, because there's a fear of like, if someone sends me a date and I can't do it, they'll be like, screw that guy, we'll go on to somebody else. And I'm like, but I want to do 3-2-1 battle.
I'm not blowing smoke up your butt. I really do want to come.
if I remember correctly, I initially sent a date that didn't work, and then I tried another date that didn't work, and then eventually I'm pretty sure I was like, here's a list of like 12 or 14 dates. Does one work?
Yeah.
We were able to hammer one out. Like,
please, does one work? Yeah. And I do remember in my head, I was always like, I never understood why Seattle and Portland and you guys kind of get smushed together from a Chicago guy, right? In my head,
right? Yeah,
like, because which
would piss off Portland people and Seattle people. It's like, well, that's just that soccer rivalry now, Timbers versus Sounders. Yeah.
Oh, that over my head. But did you see? I'm an official an Adidas.
That.
Yes. Okay, that was you. You knew what you're doing. Okay.
Again, 20 years of a pro, Colt. You're working with greatness here.
That's right. No. Yeah, because I am the official voice of Adidas soccer apparently now. That's
what
true.
do you get out of that? You get like some sweet Adidas swag? Or?
No, I got no swag. I got a sweet bump in my bank account.
I guess you can buy all the swag you want.
But I've always said, like, I didn't understand what, because something new that's kind of come about that goes into the idea of this independent show is this bar scene or bar wrestling or punk rock wrestling.
Yeah.
And not that it's really like, I think when ICW in Glasgow really started to kind of pop up in my head, it really like checked with me, because they were like, we don't want to be anything but 18 and over, drunk, just dudes and chicks, just be cool and just be crazy, and that's what we want. And then you start seeing that kind of pop up everywhere, and I was always like, I didn't understand why Seattle didn't have that kind of scene. Mm-hmm. And then I had heard of the 3-2-1 battle, and then I was like, in my head, I was like, this is amazing, great, like this is what they need. And then to make that connection with me, obviously I want to be a part of it, because that type of wrestling is my type of wrestling. And just like Steve said, when the whole crew was like, Colt Cabana is our type of guy.
Yeah.
It's a marriage. It's a marriage made in heaven. Is that a phrase?
I can't, you know what? It is now.
All right.
I think it is.
Sounds about right.
Match made in heaven.
There it is.
Close enough.
Oh, we call those Cabana-isms, by the way. It's very true.
Then last night,
I said to somebody, I said, what you do is very enduring. And I was like, and then I was texting my friend. I was like, I think that sounds right. And they're like, you mean endearing? I was like, oh yeah, that's the word.
Dude, I once said it was a facsimile, and they're like, you mean a facsimile? I think is it. And I'm like, yeah, that. And I have not been able to live it down. Last night you got to do a seminar. Mm-hmm. Are those fun experiences? Is it a trip to see? Does it bring you back to when you were first starting to wrestle, and to see that kind of like look of like, holy crap, this is Colt Cabana telling us some ideas and giving us words of wisdom?
It's funny because if you watch the very first Wrestling Road Diaries, which we filmed in 2009, came out in 2011, Daniel Bryan and I go do a seminar in Rhode Island, and in the movie he's like, I hate doing these seminars. He's like, the kids never learn anything. I don't think they ever take anything in. I think it's a waste of time. He's like, I've done all these seminars. I don't think anyone will ever like become anything. And he says it in the most earnest, nicest way, because he is a sweetheart. Yeah. And he's from here, right?
Aberdeen represent.
It all comes together. And I was kind of, maybe I thought that a little bit in my head, but like, I don't know. Like, I would never really say that, I don't think. And I was always kind of, I was always wilded out that he said that. But it it kind of makes sense. Like in your heart, you think you're coming and you're spreading all this information, and they're all gonna like then become these giant superstars. But the realization is, it's just another day training for them. And when you do these seminars, like they should be. It's just be like a goodie for them. Like they should be training in a perfect world, the students or the wrestlers are training every other day or 3 times a week, and then you get a little like, hey, this is a little bonus for you for being good and seeing that there is more possibilities out there besides in your region. And that's not just Seattle, that's everywhere. I've been all around the world, and I've gained so much knowledge, and I've taken so much from different people. And it's nice to be able to share that. It is. Yeah. And I'm so busy, I can never have a school in Chicago. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to have like glimpses of like, this is what it would be like to be a teacher.
Do you remember your first time taking a wrestling class?
Sure.
And what was that like?
There was no ring.
Uh-huh.
The Steel Domain in Chicago, Illinois, 1999, April. I remember Punk was outside, and he showed up real early while I was sitting in my car waiting to go in, and then he went in, did something, and then left. So he didn't even take the class. Uh-huh. And I just remember that because he was just so weird looking, right? He was a punk rock kid. Like, I was this, kid from the suburbs. I was like, look at it. I was like, whoa, wrestling is crazy. Look at all the people involved.
These derelicts that are involved. I don't know if this is is this the right place?
Yeah. I showed in the ring wasn't there. It was being repaired. But I wasn't like worried that it was some kind of scam or anything. Mm-hmm. And I think, we learned lockups and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, it was... I couldn't wait to go back the next day. I couldn't wait. I remember that feeling. And it's nice because looking back, I'd be like, man, if you told me it'd take 18 years or whatever to do what I'm doing, I'd be like, I don't know if that journey's worth it. Like, that sounds like crazy.
Yeah.
And that's why I told the guys last night, I was like, you got to take little steps. It's got to be baby steps, like baby goals. You can't be like, next week I want to be making a living, because it just drives you crazy to think about. And it almost drives me crazy to think about if I had to like restart. Like what would
I couldn't imagine doing that.
Right.
But in the early 20s, it's like, well, I don't got a problem. I don't have any bills to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life is so long.
Yeah, right. But it's also really short, man.
Well, now it is.
Yeah, it's getting short. It's funny because I just recently, at 321 Bat, I took wrestling classes. It's something I've always wanted to experience. And
I just took a stand-up class, and I just did stand-up the other day.
What was that like?
It was great.
Yeah?
Yeah, and it's weird because I've done stand-up, and I've opened for Mick Foley, and we like toured around. But for me, that was just telling wrestling jokes, and I really wanted to be able to see like if I could write material to people that don't know me as a wrestler. And like I was like brought up to the stage as Scott, and like I wasn't Colt, and I didn't want them to know anything about me as a wrestler.
Is that terrifying? Because you're just so used to having a character and a persona?
It wasn't, because I feel even like that I was still me as my persona. Like I've really meshed this, like I've really figured this Cabana character out over the years.
You're on to him.
Yeah, and I know how to turn it on, and I know how to have presence, and I know I even feel I know how to kind of even write just from all the stuff I've done over the years. And like even wrestling is writing on the fly. Like we're writing a scene, we're writing a sketch. It's an improv show, So I think that prepared me to do that, and I think I did great. And like, but the same way, it's just like yeah, why not go do that, right? Go do some stand-up. I mean, maybe I could go if you don't like wrestling, right, go be in the UFC. Do like we have one life. If that's something we're interested in, do it.
Yeah, it's a matter of just I don't want to look back and be like, man, I had the opportunity, but I just said no. I'm
or we're
40.
scared what other people have thought of you.
And again, I'm so glad I did it, and I would love to pick your brain about doing the comedy.
I'd love to wrestle you.
Yeah,
I'd love to have a match with
I'm ready.
You.
I could roll. I could take a bump, and I could do an arm bar. So I think I'm ready.
Yes.
No, but I've had for the longest time the biggest fear of being upside down and tumbling upside down. And, oh my God, I'm afraid still of being upside down. So I'm
going to put you in a Styles clash.
No, you're not. Then you're not getting your pastrami sandwich.
Damn it.
So I go there and I'm thinking, I'll learn how to run ropes and fall and all that fun stuff, and it'll be a great experience. And first thing that they say is, all right, let's do rolls. And I'm watching, there's like 5 people in front of me, and I'm like, I have to go upside down for
a roll?
Yeah,
for a forward roll?
Yeah, I have to be upside down.
Not really.
Well, how do you roll if you don't go upside down?
I mean, when you said I'm afraid to go upside down,
well,
I mean, it's one thing.
Look, I'm not. I know it's weird. I'm not lying to
going
you.
up for a suplex or something.
That's a gymnast. You're doing a what 2-year-olds do, a gymnastic roll.
I am aware of that, Colt. And my wife is a former gymnast. And when I told her how excited I was that I conquered my fear, I've never told her that. She's like, oh, she had the same response as you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was terrifying to me.
You're adorable.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Would you like to cuddle after this?
No. I'd like to put you upside down is what I'd like to do.
You know, I regret buying you a water.
But if you tell me that fear, I want to help you conquer it now.
Oh, I could tell. I could see the glimmer in your eye that you're trying to help my fear.
Imagine taking that power bomb off the top like Candido used to give.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, could you do that now?
I've only done 2 wrestling classes, Colt, and I don't like you planting these seeds in Steve's head.
I mean, to take a top row power bomb, you don't have to go upside down really, though, right? Like, you stay upward facing and just fall on your back. So you shouldn't be scared of that at all.
Oh, well, I don't agree with that.
Was there any kind of a fear of doing stand-up comedy in a sense of what kind of premise were you working with? Because, I mean,
I did 5 minutes on cargo shorts.
Are you pro or against?
Oh, so pro.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm against the idea that society tells us we can't wear them.
Yes.
Especially me, my joke was as a 37-year-old single dad with no children. Yeah, and then I did a little thing about Mambo Number 5 and how I feel that's one of the greatest songs of my generation also.
I'd like to know why you think that.
It was a great, remember when it came on the radio?
Yeah.
It was great, right?
No.
Yes, it was. And that video was amazing too.
Oh, the video was pretty dope.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And the song was great. Like, it got you moving. It got us moving. And then society said that it wasn't cool anymore.
Well, I guess in the world I was in, it was never cool.
Really? No. Oh, I loved it. That and the thong song were like,
oh my God.
As they were happening. Right now, I get it. We look back and we're like, we can like ironically say that was cool. But as it was happening, 99, I think, 2000. Those were my jams, man.
Yeah, I can understand.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
I love that song. So no, I don't know. I took this like the way the class was really important to me, and like and I believe in that mentorship.
Who mentored you in the world of stand-up?
Oh, well, I mean, Marty DeRosa is, my hero, but like, and my buddy, and I think he's amazing. But I took this class with my friend Ricky Gonzalez, and he's a Chicago comic. But just the idea of like, because I've come up in wrestling, like I understand how important it is to like know how stuff works, and you can't just start doing it. And there's rules, and like there's rules of like how it's done. And so like I wanted to make sure like I wasn't disrespecting the art or the form of stand-up. And like making sure, like, not how jokes are structured, but just kind of an inside peek, and not pretending that I know because I've watched stand up for 25 years or whatever it is. And I think a lot of that can relate to wrestling, and I think wrestling fans might get upset about that.
I've always felt that the stand-up comic and especially the independent wrestler are very parallel in lifestyles. I mean, traveling all the time, really investing in yourself and improvisation as well.
Yeah, I have these conversations with stand-ups all the time, and I've become friends, with that community a lot, and they're always like, our life is the same except you work out and keep yourself in shape.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're piles of shit. Yeah, we're piles of shit.
Although some wrestlers probably could be that as well.
Yeah, true. That's what I said. Yeah. And weirdly, sometimes some stand-ups can...
some could be pretty buff.
Yeah, keep themselves. Yeah. Joe Rogan, I think, is all they got.
I thought Carrot Top.
Carrot Top, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's funny when you bring up improv. And like, I remember one time we went to a convention in the Second City. We were in Chicago, and the Second City guys came in, and to this day, and that was like 15 years ago, I still think of the things that they said. What you do on the microphone, how you interact with the crowd, it is so improv based, and it was so inspiring for me doing radio. I remember when I first started falling in love with independent wrestling and watching what you guys do, I was like, I could apply so much of this to what I do on the air.
One of the keys to wrestling too is that even if we have a script, you have to know that you have to go with your gut, and you have to go with what's there and what works, and you have to be able to go off script at any moment. The idea of independent wrestling that isn't a thing, I think helps the wrestlers grow a lot, and I think that's why that scene is so successful now. All the top guys all come from the independent scene. Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, all these guys, all of NXT, anyone successful in NXT,
right?
Because we get our chops going on this scene where there is nobody telling us what we can and can't do, and so we have to kind of like figure it out on the fly and figure out how to be a performer without a script or go off of script, because no one's ever going to yell at us to stay on script on an independent show. We have to feel in our heart and our gut what's best for what's happening right there.
Have you had moments where the guy you're in the ring with isn't feeling the same way as you're feeling, and it's almost like there's almost a clash in a sense? And how do you handle that while you're trying to entertain thousands of people in the ring?
Well, it's a little easier for me because I'm a veteran, so it's like not many wrestlers are going to be above me.
You can be like, listen, kid, this is how we do it.
And even, dude, I talked about this in my podcast. I wrestled Buff Bagwell, and he came back. He's like, I think that was the best match I've ever had in my life. So, and I followed his lead on there. But I added my flair to it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what made it so much fun. And also, I think he thought I was just some scrub, and the crowd was cheering for me like crazy. And I could see in his face being like, who is this guy? What? And you like my southern accent I'm trying to do? My Buff Bagwell.
I didn't even notice it. Sorry.
Who is this man? I don't know. But yeah, I guess there was a weird thing in Scotland where I got in a fight with a dude. And I don't know. He was a couple years in, and he was just taking. It was very weird. He was like taking weird liberties, and I kind of shut him down, and I kind of gave him an ultimatum. I said, hey, we're going to finish this professional wrestling match, or we could have a real fight.
So this is happening while you guys are in the ring?
Yeah. The crowd doesn't know, but I know, and he's pissed me off. And so, And so,
what happens after the match is done? Do you guys even is it like you just leave it in the ring in a sense, or is it?
No, I told him I've never felt so disrespected in my life, and he should be ashamed of himself. And I don't know. And he tried to talk to me. I said, I don't have the time for you. Please leave me alone.
Not only are you performing, but you're also your well-being is in his hands.
And also, I don't know, if I'm 3 years into wrestling and there's a guy who's traveled all over the world and has been
right?
I would want to soak in as much as I could. And
I'd be honored.
So I didn't understand that.
Recently, when I did talk with Matt Cross, he shared an insane story of the weirdest place he ever wrestled, which was in a prison.
In a prison, yeah.
And then
because Matt and I just did a podcast and we talked about prison wrestling.
Oh, okay, yeah. That blew my mind. And when Joey came on, Joey Ryan, he mentioned something to us about wrestling in Japan. There's shows that are just for women in the crowd only, and how surreal and weird that is. I mean, you've done everything. I mean, you've done.
I've done Gathering of the Juggalos for 7 years.
Right.
Yeah.
What's been the weirdest one for you?
So there's a couple of them, and some I can't even remember. That's how I can't even remember. I'll tell you what. I'll give you a couple, and you tell me which one you want to know about.
Okay.
All right. I wrestled.
It's like a choose your own adventure book.
I wrestled at a fat camp. I wrestled in front of the Inuits in the northernmost part of Canada.
Oh.
I wrestled in India in a dirt patch, and I've wrestled on the border towns of Mexico and Texas.
Can I pick two?
You can pick two if you want.
Fat Camp and what was the second one that you just the
I was in front of we can't say Eskimos anymore.
That's it.
Yeah,
Yes.
the Inuits. Yeah.
Yes.
Fat Camp was there was a show on MTV called Camp Shane years ago, and it was one of those not like MTV True Story. Do you remember this one? No.
I'm just really hoping that you're going to divulge that you did the Ben Stiller gimmick from the movie Heavyweights.
And it's weird because you have to be you have to be sensitive,
of course,
to these kids. Yeah. So I mean, in wrestling, and I've thought about this a lot lately too, is that even in regular shows, we'll be like, "Shut up, fatty." I saw it the other day, and when I was 20, that's what we did to get heat, quote unquote. And as a 37-year-old, I saw someone call someone a fatty, and kind of hurt my heart because I felt for this fan, we're kind of, I know body shaming and all that stuff is it's PC, blah, 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 but it's I wouldn't want to go to a show and probably maybe really be insensitive about being big and then it just being spotlighted.
Yeah. And there's more creative ways to
correct
to have some fun at somebody's expense.
So I'd like to see that change in wrestling, to be honest. And maybe maybe I can help. I'm not sure. But we wrestled at this was called Camp Shane. Camp Shane. It was known on MTV because they did a reality show there, and I knew one of the counselors that was there, and he scammed them to put on a wrestling show, and we wrestled at a fat camp. Matt Stryker was there. Kurt Hawkins wrestled on the show. Tony Nese.
Oh wow!
And this was years ago when he was a nobody. Yeah, he was. This is 2010 maybe. And I don't know if there was any crazy stories to that. But it was just bizarre I think they all fed us lunch, but it was like the portion control bunch,
Can I get 2 portions?
Yeah. It definitely was. We went in the line and like
I'm not impatient. I'm here just as a guest.
We saw what they ate. And what was the other one? Yeah, I did a show in Quebec, and then there was a guy there that was Nunavut is the very, very top part of Canada. It's the highest place. So it was a 3-hour flight to Quebec and then a 3-hour flight from Quebec to Nunavut. It was light out 23 hours of the day. It's right next to maybe Greenland or Iceland up there. And the fan was in the show in Quebec, and he lived up there. He would fly down to see good wrestling, and he had a lot of money, and he would put up these shows up there. So it was just kind of a one-off. I remember up there, it's like kind of a reservation type thing. So there's a lot of money up there, but no one wants to live up there, and that's why they give you a lot of money. And so people have a lot of money to spend at these shows. And I remember, I was selling T-shirts for like $60 and like no problem. Yeah. So like it was pretty wild, and it was just a small town. There was like I couldn't even, there was no like sidewalks, or it was just like an ice patch with some grass and some buildings. And I remember a 24-pack of water was $65, and it was crazy. Yeah, because there's all this money going up there, but also it costs all this money to ship stuff up there because it's just another part of the world. And it was such a fun experience to take in, and those are the shows.
I'd imagine those are like those moments where now, anytime you even get like an email saying, "Hey, I want to have you," and it's like, that sounds weird, but you know what? It could be a great experience.
Yeah, I'm doing this thing I'm doing this thing called the Do Lectures in the mountains of Wales, and they were like, "Hey, we'd fly you out. We won't pay you anything." And I was just like, well, normally that'd be ridiculous. But
Steve's like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, sorry. Well, it's not a wrestling show. It's a retreat, and I want to get that out of your head that I'll do something for free. Also, don't think about that. But yeah, it's like when they asked me to be a speaker there, and I just thought, man, I'd never do that. I'd never go to the mountains of Wales. It's like a 2-hour car ride into the mountains from Cardiff, and Cardiff is pretty out there too. And so yeah, I took advantage of that, and I was like, yeah, I'd like to do that, and so I'm going to go do that next month.
Do you have anything in your head already as far as what you're going to say? Or?
No, they were like, no pressure. We want to hear your story and want you to inspire other people. Yeah. So right, it could be pressure where like the pressure of like having to put up do a 5-minute stand-up set, but they're like, please just talk about how you've come up, and that'll be enough. And I was like, and then we'll feed you and have a good time. You can listen to bands, and it sounds kind of hippy-dippy, but I like it.
Yeah, bring your bongos and your tambourine, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I look for those experiences 100%. And I think 3-2-1 Battle is that's an experience that I think is going to be different, and I want to do. And I told Matt, like, I want to do the prison wrestling so bad, and he's like, they just don't do it anymore.
Yeah, that story is insane.
Yeah.
And he didn't think that the people that were in the ring, around the ring, the crowd, were just maybe like, marginal criminals, you know what I mean? But then he found out like some were like convicted of murder, and he's like, I'm wrestling, and there's only a few feet separating me from a murderer.
And now they're like, and if you do good, they're like, I'm a huge fan of you.
They like the bad guys too. Yeah, they're like, yeah,
I will follow your career forever, Matt Cross.
I'll shank that guy for you if you want.
No one will do harm to you.
No, it's true about that 3-2-1 is like when I first got to go experience one, it was unlike anything I've ever experienced. The energy of the crowd, the way everything is, it's truly one of the most fun experiences. And I've always told anyone that even if you're not a wrestling fan, going to these, you'll fall in love with what they're doing, because it's wrestling fan. Of course, you're going to love it.
But that's the key to our scene is and I think just the scene in general, that non-wrestling fans will love it, but they just don't know about it, or they don't know to go to it because they think of arena wrestling,
right,
where you're not part of the show. And arena wrestling can be boring if you're not a super fan. It's just you're one of 10,000 people, and it's just about getting people to these shows. And for sure, like in my head, it's like a 90% rate of like you go to one of these local awesome intimate shows, and you'll fall in love with it. And I feel it's my job. And I feel I'm really good at it, is getting the crowd involved and like getting people involved and making you part of the show. Like to me, it's my job to like make you part of the show. If you're a fan, you come to the show, so you feel a part of it. And you don't get lost in the sea of people like in arena
How do you
wrestling.
prepare for something? Like, do you gauge like how previous matches are happening that during that card, or like catch a vibe from the people that you talk to while you're there, selling T-shirts, or like how do you know what's going to work or what's not, or is it just like kind of like a spaghetti method of just throwing it against the wall?
No, I'll watch. You see what kind of crowd's coming in. I'll watch the matches before me.
Yeah.
I'll kind of get a vibe for the atmosphere. I'll look out there and I'll see who's having kind of fun, and I'll kind of like scope out the characters in the crowd and who's vocal and who's quiet, and even kids. Like I like. I'll say this. I guess I'll say this correctly. I was going to say I like playing with kids, but like
Colt likes to work for free and play with kids.
Let it be known.
We'll send that to the dirt sheets.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
No, but there's something about interacting with children in these shows, especially at adult shows, which I think is so fun. Like I'll do these adult shows where there's randomly like 2 or 3 children out there, and like sometimes if you play just to those children, like the adults will really like get into it and think it's really funny.
It probably brings them back to being a kid.
Yeah,
in a sense.
Or just also that, and just the idea of that, like I don't know, that you just found the one child and like that's who you're.
Yeah.
Who you're I don't want to say who you're screwing with, but that's.
I get what you're saying.
You got it. You got it.
I play hockey, so a lot of times I'll be like, we refer to our hockey teammates as the boys. Like, you're hanging out with the boys.
Right,
and I was on the air the other day, and I'm like, I was, just taking a shower with the boys. and everyone in the room looks at me like, what? And I'm like, the boys are men. And I took having a shower with the men. And again, that still was weird. If you don't do it, you haven't experienced it, you don't understand why having just like hanging out in the shower talking with your buddies is a normal thing in our heads.
Yeah.
Before we wrap things up, like I said, I'm a huge fan of the art of wrestling. I have so many. I was like trying to think of like my favorite memory from the art of wrestling. The first one that popped in, it was the Cody interview with Cody Rhodes, and it was like that. It was that awkward moment towards the end where it was like one of those moments where I would love to play for people that might have unknown issues with each other, because I felt like you guys fleshed out something that you had a perception, he had a perception, and if anyone has a chance, just go back and listen to it. I don't want to. I mean, you just follow the journey, and it's like one of the most like sit in my car. I'm not getting out of my car until I hear how this is resolved. But it was for you. What's been your absolute favorite memory of doing the insane amount of art of wrestling episodes you've done?
And right, I've done over 353 of them now at this point, and when this comes out, who knows how many it's going to be. And it's funny you say that, because when you say the end of there's so many moments, but when you say the end of the episode where this came out, there was another thing that happened at the end of an episode. Is I had Pac on, who's now Neville, and we had just like a basic talk, and then what happened was we stopped it. I think I went and took a shower with the boys. And then I was thinking, and then I just kept on thinking, and then like after I came out, I was like, hey man, like I think we should touch on some stuff. And he was like, I was thinking the same thing. And then we restarted it again. Mm-hmm. And then we did another 20 minutes about success and pressure, and he really, really opened up. And that's kind of what I feel my show was always meant to be. So in the first half, we kind of talked about his career and and I talk about a lot about like, hey, getting into wrestling and our fears about that. But there was this moment in his current career about his current fears, and I felt he wanted to touch upon it, but he was a little scared to. Mm-hmm. And I really wanted, like him to do what he wanted, like I felt there was something there, and we did, and we touched upon it, and he really opened up about his fears of being successful and all of this stuff. And then, a year later, he gets signed to WWE, and then, now he's killing it doing this character. And that moment, that podcast meant a lot to me, and I thought it was one of the defying moments, but like, just like you said, like really sums up, I think, what my show is meant to be and why it's there.
Well, that's what, I mean, you always put people in a very comfortable place, and it's never about trying to grill them for anything that's going to make news. You know what I mean?
Well, it's also because I'm a wrestler, and I want to. It's like I'm out. I treat these podcasts sometimes like I treat a match. Like I want to protect these podcasts are done with my friends.
Yeah.
So I want to protect my friend. The last thing I want to do is get somebody in trouble. Right. The last thing I want to do is like get some dirt and then go spew it out in the world.
Have you ever had a time where someone's like, hey man, I kind of hope, can you edit that part out, or has that not happened?
No, I've edited some stuff out.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I don't want this, this wasn't for me.
Is there...
somebody has said something. I did one with Jeff Hardy a couple weeks, and he was like, and afterwards he's like, "Would you mind editing that?" I was like, "Yeah, of course."
Yeah.
And so I took it right out. Yeah.
I mean, you don't need to have those moments in order for it to be great. And that's and is there one wrestler that right now you are beyond happy for their success? Like if you had to pick one wrestler that you're just so happy to see the success that they have, who would it be?
I mean, I think it would be Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
And just. I put out a podcast with him where he was like, "Well, I'm ready to quit."
Dude, that was that was a heavy episode to listen to because it almost felt like he was. I don't think I'm not going to get a chance.
And I think Seth Rollins has touched upon this too, and where we're just like, I don't ever see him being there. I don't ever see him because we know how great of a wrestler he is, but just the mold that they have said that this is what a wrestler is and this is what a wrestler isn't. That I just don't see him being there, and I feel bad because he's great, but I think Ring of Honor or this type of place is the highest he's going to find success. Wow. And then just to see him just go to NXT and be like, oh, they're going to hate him there, they're going to make him wear gear and change his thing, and then they didn't, and then he just went up and did that stuff with Cena. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And he was great at it, and he is great, and so I think it makes me very happy. And him and Sami Zayn, they were. When I got fired from the WWE and I came back to the independent scene, those were my travel partners. And so we spent a lot of time together growing as performers and talking and spilling our guts to each other. And so to see both of those guys be successful is amazing for me.
Oh, I bet. And thank you for taking a few minutes out. And I look forward to having a pastrami sandwich with you and Steve. ColtMerch.com. And I've bought is that a word?
Sure, it is in my vocabulary.
I've bought plenty of shirts from you, and I remember geeking out one time when the shirt came and you autographed just a random postcard, and it was just it's just the little things as a fan.
Right,
goes a long way.
I used to put WCW cards in there. I've ran out of them though. I would get like these old crappy cards and like always throw in like a little WCW card in my. When I was sending out the merch.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so people would tweet me and be like, thanks for the shirt, but more thank you for the Flying Brian Pillman card.
Dude, that's how it was. I was like super stoked about getting the Colt shirt, and I was like, and I'm not an autograph guy, but the fact that that was so cool because it was not expected.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I still have it on display. I was like,
it's not hard for me to sign a piece of paper.
Yeah, but some
and
people,
it goes a long way. No, I understand.
Some people think it is,
of
and
course.
that's something that's a testament to what you do. And then on Twitter at Colt Cabana,
Twitter and Instagram at Colt Cabana. The podcast. Hopefully you've been listening and you understand the art of wrestling. I'm on YouTube. I try to put a lot of stuff on YouTube. I like to try to do some more stuff with that. And the Road Diaries, which are very special to my heart. And we didn't get a chance to talk about the Wrestling Road Diaries 3, Funny Equals Money, and it's Jack Henniger did it. He edited and directed it, and it's about comedy and wrestling. And I flew over Kikutaro and Greta over to America, and we really dissect comedy and wrestling, and I'm really proud of it. And especially, it's kind of not a hot topic now, but with guys like Rip Rogers and Jim Cornette really poo-pooing it. And, I think you should give it a watch and see our passion about this specific type of art.
Yes.
And we do believe it's art. And I'm very passionate about comedy wrestling. So those are all available at Colt Merch. And ColtCabana.com is my website.
Colt Cabana, thank you.
Thank you.